So today I'm happy to announce the new home child care provider and home support worker pilot programs. These two new pilot programs will provide caregivers a permanent way to become permanent residents to Canada. How will it work? All people wanting to become caregivers in Canada will be assessed for permanent residency before they arrive in Canada. So caregivers that come here and have a work permit and have a job offer will have a solid path to becoming permanent residents once and for all. They know that once they meet the work requirement, they will have a solid path to become PR. In addition to that, when a caregiver receives the initial work permit through either one of the pilots, that permit will be caregiver specific, not employer specific. This will allow caregivers to be able to leave an employer and work with another employer within the caregiver industry. This is something that we've heard very loudly and clearly from you, that you needed the flexibility to be able to remove yourself from a situation in which you felt vulnerable. And so for the first time, we'll be moving ahead to make sure that work permits for caregivers are not tied to the employer, but are tied to the occupation. That gives you the flexibility, it gives you the confidence, and it also responds to your concerns around vulnerability. The other major thing is, not only was it the right thing to reunite families faster for caregivers and to reduce the processing time and to eliminate the backlog, in order to prevent this problem in the future, caregivers moving forward will be able to bring their family members with them. So we are enabling them to bring their family members, their spouse and their children. Their spouse will be able to have an open work permit, and their children will have a student permit so that they can go to school. So let me make it clear to everyone in this room and beyond, under the leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and our government, there will be no longer family separation of caregiver families. And another thing, in the past, caregivers under the previous program required an LMIA process, a labor market impact process, as part of the work permit process. And again, caregivers had to get an LMIA, which was costly for them and time-consuming. But we have heard from you loud and clear. As a government, we listen to you, we listen to your members of parliament, we have heard from you, and under these new two programs for caregivers, caregivers will no longer need to get an LMIA. We believe that these two new pilot programs will address a number of things that you brought forward to us. With work permits for their spouse and student permit for their children, there will be no more family separation. Second, there will be a clear path for caregivers to become permanent residents. And third, we will have a way for you to change your employer without any penalty. So due to a request from caregivers, finally, the interim pathway to permanent residency for all the people who are part of the Living Caregiver Program and who didn't quite get to become permanent residents, we know that the deadline has expired in June, but we've heard from you that you would like to extend that program to allow more people to have a pathway to permanent residence. So finally, I'm here to also announce, and I'm proud to announce with my colleagues, that the interim pathway program will reopen once again on July 8, 2019, and will be open for 3 months. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing is the Canadian way. The Canadian way is to take care of each other, is to look out for each other, and to care for those who care for us. That's who you are. And we want you to come to Canada to pursue a life of service and contribution to our economy, but also to reunite you with your families and to make you permanent residents and eventually Canadian citizens, members of the Canadian family, to become members of the best country in the world. Thank you. Salamat. Mabuhay.